is our media project. There's Kristina on the camera at the moment, and I'm Louise. The article that we've chosen is a new idea for helping the homeless in Campbell River, published by the Courier Islander on October the 9th, 2013. And basically, it's about the homeless shelter that's operated by Radiant Life down here in downtown Campbell River. It has a capacity of 15, 7. It has 7 double bunk rooms. The rooms are approximately 4 feet by 8 feet, 2 bunks in each, blankets, really cozy pillows, room for the whole family. Each unit has its own heat. It has a reading light, smoke detector, so no smoking. Guests can stay from 7 at night till 7 in the morning. And there's also an office. This is where the workers stay and check people in and check people out. At the end of the unit, there's a composting toilet. At the other end is where they keep their gasoline and their power and storage. The outside of the unit is this temporary storage. All possessions go inside the storage. None are allowed inside of the rooms. So capacity is 15 people per night. This is the second year that it's been in operation. A lot of the costs associated with the homeless shelter are covered by donations from the city. The city covers the lights, the electricity, the power, sticks and stones, paid for the landscaping last year and this year. And I believe that the company that built the new Seymour Pacific building actually donated enough money to keep the unit running in gas. Other donations, blankets, food, cash, warm clothing by various churches, Radiant Life Church, school, doing different drives and stuff like that. Also, Family Services helps to fund. BC Housing funds when there's cold weather and it meets cold weather criteria, which I believe is below 0. There really just seems to be a lot of public support. There's definitely a lot of need. Right now, the unit is on loan to Campbell River from the company that built it, free of charge, in the hopes that other communities would see its use, see its need, see how well it does for us, and purchase a unit. The units are actually $100,000 about to purchase, and operating costs are around $75,000 a season, which is only about 5 months. So the people that run the Radiant Life Church also run the Radiant Life Soup Kitchen. They saw that there was a need for this type of facility. It's a minimum barrier, so basically that means that you don't need to be sober in order to go in. But there wasn't a facility like this in Campbell River. The Salvation Army had attempted to rezone their building on Evergreen to allow minimum boundaries, but the neighborhood didn't really like it, so that was kind of squashed, and so this canister was brought in to help cover that need, basically. So 8 staff members to run it. They run 2 people a night. 2 people stay from 7 till at night until 1 o'clock in the morning, and then one person goes home and the other person stays until 7 in the morning. It's on shift work. So there's 2 sets of 2 people, there's 2 spares, as well as 1 cleaner. And I'm missing somebody, but there's somebody else that helps out too.
Hello. The guidelines that or rules that we received from Dean, who was the man who was here the night we were here, he printed off for us. So the guidelines that they hand out to the users of the homeless shelter are: the staff at the emergency shelter are here to provide a safe, warm place to sleep. You will need to provide your name and birth date for safety reasons. You will be kind and respectful to staff and other clients. There will be no using on or in the property of the shelter, and if there is, you will be asked to depart immediately and this will be non-negotiable. There will be no belongings in the room, and that's why Louise showed you the shelter. the storage. That's where they keep their belongings. Please refrain from coming in and out, as you may lose your bed, because it is first come, first serve. If you leave the premises after 12 a.m., you'll be asked not to return. There will be no swearing, no violence of any kind, no abuse to staff or other clients, including self-abuse. There will be no pornographic or such in written or verbal to staff or other clients. Staff will wake you at 6:30 in the morning. You must depart no later than 7 a.m. Staff will be opening each unit several times a night to check on the units. And Dean mentioned that sometimes he'll peek in and use a bright light, not only to make sure that they aren't following the rules, but also to make sure they're alive. Staff will call non-emergency police to notify them if you discharge yourself in extreme weather conditions. Staff will provide heat pajamas to sleep in, but you must leave them there in hopes that there'll be some for you the next night. There is also no weapons allowed on the premises. So, in summary, sobriety is not a criteria. It is first come, first serve. If someone's too drunk or too high, an ambulance will be called for them. And it seems that this happens regularly. They do call their ambulance regularly. Check-in is 7 until midnight. And if a minor stays, and they can tell that by when they give their date of birth, social services can be called to provide a safer accommodation as well as further support.
Okay, so who in the community is affected by this? Well, realistically, everyone is affected. According to the Campbell River Homeless Commission report of 2009 that was done for the city of Campbell River, there are approximately 388 homeless people in Campbell River. That's men, that's women, that's youth, that's children as well. There are families that are considered homeless in Campbell River. That report indicated that there were approximately 40% First Nations were homeless out of that 388. From what we've seen coming down here to the shelter and being at the soup kitchen, that number is should be a little bit higher. The shelter average stats, they run from November till about April. Last year they were open for 181 nights, and the total number of clients staying at the shelter was 1,746, making that an average of 10 people per night staying at the shelter. Honestly, I was really surprised and completely dismayed by the age of the people that were using the shelter the night that we were here. They were just so young. So many of them are classmates' age, maybe even younger. One person was here with her mother. It's actually just really very sad, but it works. One of the gentlemen that was here on the night that we were here, he was running the shelter with Dean. His name is Alfred. You'll be hearing more about him in the news shortly, I'm told. 2 years ago he was homeless and he was an addict, and he used the shelter. And he has since cleaned himself up. He's got a job. He works at the shelter here. I think he works somewhere else. He has a home. And now he works with the youth that come here and use the shelter to try and help get them off the street. So these things, they really work. Something else, another way it affects our community is each person that stays the night at the shelter is one more person who's not being found on a doorstep, who's not, trying to break in somewhere to find a warm place to sleep. They're one more person not in the drunk tank, and they're one more person not in the hospital using up the valuable resources of our community, our health system, our police and stuff. So Kristina actually had a conversation with a police officer the night that we worked at the soup kitchen, and she'll be able to talk about that.
Alright, so when we were at the soup kitchen, we had a police officer come in, and I went over and talked to him because one of the things that we noticed that evening was that there was approximately about 95% that we seen for natives versus Caucasian. And I asked him, do you see do you see this normally, or is this just a special occasion? And he said, no, because the Native population is the most vulnerable, they seem to be more of them homeless than the Caucasian, and because they're used to staying in the cold, they also seem to be the ones that are most able to survive it and go through a cold night to cold night to cold night. Also, he was saying that probably due to their past ancestry and culture and living in the outdoors, that they seem to be able to take it on more easily than other people, maybe because of their skin or whatever. They've just got a build up towards it. One of the other things that I was asking him was, how do they seem to react to you? Do they seem to be mean, or do they seem to want to fight with you? Because when we were there, they were having really good conversations with them, and that was sort of a surprise. And he said the population, the actual Native population, seems to react to them better than the Caucasians. He says that they seem to obey us, being the police and authority, more than, and respect them more than the Caucasian, which we're thinking could come back to being in the actual schools and stuff like that, that they had to be told you were allowed to do this, this, and this, and not that. So we also asked how it shows in the drum takes. Do they seem to have a decrease? And he did say that it does show that if they've got the shelter, that they aren't being taken over and put in the drug takes, because that was a warm spot for them to stay. They also were talking, me and the police officer were talking about that conversations that they were having there. They seemed to be very, very cooperative with the police officer. They're also very friendly with the police officer, and I asked him about that as well, as is this a norm for you? And he said, well, most of the homeless get to know us very well, and we seem to be the only sane relationship that they actually come into contact, so they do become very friendly with us. And then the other question that I asked is, do you get a lot of calls for the shelter or the food kitchen because of the violence? And he says that the Native population, like I said earlier, they do respect them, and they do get calls, but they do seem to obey them and calm down, and most times everything can be fixed just by talking to them. They don't have to take them away or anything. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention as well is, like, we were talking about that police officer and the respect and everything, and he said to me, it's like anyone else who sees us with our uniform. You seem to get comforted that is safety, so you will come and talk to us more than you would somebody else who isn't. So he says that's the same way with the homeless. They see us as we're there to help protect them and keep them safe, so they come to us like anybody else would. One of the main health determinants that we picked were income and social status. Now, the income aspect of the homeless is that, yes, there is welfare, yes, there is social supports, but they don't get enough money, and a lot of them have issues with mental as well as emotional and other issues that they're going through, and instead of getting the help that they need because they don't know how to, they seek out alcohol and drugs and other things, and they don't have the coping abilities, so their income ends up getting spent on other issues, whereas other people who have more money, who also have other things to help them out, would go and get that help. One of the things that their income, like for welfare gives for one person about $600 a month, and a majority of that is actually supposed to go to the housing. And when that happens, so probably whenever they get their lump sum of money a month, they will actually, we're told that they'll pool it together and go to a hotel and spend a couple nights there. But once that money is spent, then they do not have any more money till the next time, and they still have like 28 days out of the 30 that they don't have a place to live because they don't have the money. So income is a very big aspect. If they can't get the money that they need to get a home or to help support them, they aren't able to survive and they're outside a lot of the times, and just that cold weather and the not being able to eat properly is very detrimental to their health. The other one is the social status. Because of a lot of the problems that they're going through, they don't have a lot of good social supports, as well as they don't have a lot of safety in the social supports that they have. They also are seen by other people in the community as money grubbers, or there's a lot of other aspects put on them, that they are either drug seeking, money seeking, or they're just too lazy to go and get themselves jobs. But in fact, there are a lot more issues behind why they can't get the job or why they are doing what they're doing. So social status becomes a big issue as well, because they don't have the supports that they need to be able to go to somebody and say, I need help with this, or the supports that they have are the same supports that are also in trouble as well. Along with a lot of the people that we've seen were like families. So if your whole family is in trouble, then how there's not that other supports out there for you as well. So how it impacts the health is without those supports, without the we also found that we didn't see any with the Native population, there wasn't the support of their elders and anybody else to come down, and maybe that would help as well.
Our second determinant of health that we picked was culture, because of what we noticed. The stats say 40%. It was definitely higher than 40%. It was at least 95%. It was amazing how many First Nations were here. And initially I was surprised, and then I thought back to the movie that we showed in class that talked about how the First Nations have been troubled by colonialism in the past century. And here I go. And the soup kitchen, as well as the homeless shelter, impact the First Nations users by providing hot meals, nutrition, love, care, camaraderie, warmth, and a dry, safe place to sleep for the night. Culture interacts eminently with our first determinant of health, of income and social status. For the Canadian Centre of Policy Alternatives states in their July 2013 study that fully 50% of status First Nation children live in poverty as measured by the low income measure. That's mind-boggling numbers, but when you see who comes here, it proves true. These children born into poverty learn poverty, and they learn homelessness, and they don't know any better. and history repeats itself. The individual and cumulative effects of inequitable social determinants of health are evident in diminished physical, mental, and emotional health experienced by many Aboriginal people. And my personal opinion is the troubles that they suffer as a culture, or how the effects of a culture are with this, and how many people use it from the First Nations population, I believe wholeheartedly directly comes from how they've been treated. As you mentioned earlier, Kristina, the trauma from the residential schools. I have here the repercussions of the residential schools, which are often considered the vanguard of genocide and resocialization of First Nations people, are the loss of culture, language, family ties, and community networks, which were destroyed for generations. This resulted in dramatic and devastating socio-culture change, including disconnection by many of them from their ancestry and culture. Residential schools destroyed First Nations pride in their culture. They were made to feel stupid and were harshly punished for speaking of their own culture and language. And you mentioned already what our CMP officer said, that the First Nations people obey, and that word just makes me cringe. It makes me think of the way they were harshly punished, the way they were treated, the way they were scorned, the way they were held at bay because of speaking their own culture.
Okay, so the last part, what can be implemented to promote or maintain good health of affected groups or individuals, and to specific health promotion interventions. Well, we've seen the Radiant Life Soup Kitchen. They offer dinners, they offer breakfasts, they offer lunches. Last year, November 1st to April 31st, they served dinners on 94 nights. 3,079 meals were served with an average of 33 clients a night. That's 33 clients a night that are getting a meal for free. That's 33 homeless people a night that are getting a meal for free. Breakfasts are served all year long, Monday to Friday, but not holidays. So last year, 246 breakfast days totaling 3,938 meals, 22 clients every morning getting a morning breakfast. And this year, the soup kitchen has been open for 62 days, so just over 3,900 meals, averaging 64 clients. We spoke with some of the volunteers. The meals cost about $100 a night to feed all of these people. And the volunteers are the ones that take care of it. They come in and they make the meals, they serve the meals, they clean up, they pay for the meals. The volunteers are coming from Coast Realty Group, the Baptist churches, other churches and stuff. It was a wonderful experience. When we were there, we had 25, 28 people. I think 4 of them were Caucasian. And every single one of them was so polite and so kind and so friendly. It was just such a superb experience. Other initiatives, blanket drives, food drives, cash donations, warm clothing drives that are put on by the schools and the churches. And that was a fire truck going by. The shelter itself, what an amazing harm reduction. The shelter is itself keeping these people off the streets and out of buildings and storefronts and stuff like that. In fact, one of the gentlemen that worked here when we were here, Alfred, again, a prime example of how well this shelter really works. But I think the biggest harm reduction is us showing you what can be done, and you showing other people what can be done and what's available. I think that as a group, our class, our nursing class, ourselves, we are part of the biggest harm reduction, the biggest health practice, the biggest impact can be made by us to help these people, educate ourselves, ask questions, how can we help them, what can we do to help them. Really, you are the biggest health reduction practice there is. Thank you from all of us here at the homeless shelter. It's really cold and we'd like to get into our cars now. Have a nice warm night.